Israel and Hamas are now accusing each other of violating a ceasefire brokered by the U.S. Israel confirming it struck multiple targets inside Gaza today after alleging shots were fired at IDF vehicles in Rafah. Hamas denies any involvement. Its health ministry reporting at least 18 deaths connected to Israeli strikes. Now Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is asking Israeli defense officials to act forcefully against terrorist targets in Gaza. Meanwhile, Hamas says it's now recovered the body of another Israeli hostage. So far, Hamas has returned the remains of 12 of the 28 dead hostages and says Israel's operations in Gaza are slowing down the search for the remaining bodies. This all comes as Vice President JD Vance is set to travel to Israel this week to push for the second phase of the fragile peace deal to move forward. Let's bring in foreign affairs analyst, author, and journalist Robin Wright for more. Robin, Hamas put out a statement today saying it affirms its full commitment to implementing everything agreed upon in the ceasefire. How fragile is this deal right now, and are both sides holding up their ends of the bargain?
Well, that's the bottom line, that the ceasefire is very fragile, as often happens at the end of wars, not only in the Middle East. That's why J.D. Vance and Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are heading back to the region to deal with these, what we hope are just hiccups in the return of the last deceased hostages, as well as regulating aid into the Palestinian territories. But the big challenge really lies ahead, and that is giving both sides a sense that there is something else beyond the ceasefire that will help stabilize, and that's the creation of an interim security force, bringing in foreign forces from the Arab world, from the Muslim world, some possibly from the West, including the United States, and the beginning of a creation of an alternative Palestinian state, so Hamas is not in political control. These are huge jobs, and of course there's a reconstruction as well, which could take up to a decade. So there's a lot still to make everyone feel that this is actually going to work.
What are some of the biggest challenges for the vice president as he heads to the Middle East this week to move this agreement into phase two?
Well, again, it's defining who's going to participate in the interim force, defining plans for reconstruction. There's talk of taking Rafah and making it a model state for an area within Gaza that is not ruled by Hamas. One of the big questions, of course, is who's going to pay for all of this, because the United States has indicated it's not going to provide a cent when it comes to the reconstruction of Gaza. So who is going to pay for it? The president has talked about, wealthy Arabs, wealthy countries, but when you look at the environment that's talking about it, 2 or 3 countries in the Gulf, not many beyond, could provide the kind of funding that is required, the tens of billions, hundreds of billions potentially, to rebuild the state, given the devastation. 93% of residences alone have been destroyed or damaged.
President Trump said earlier this week, if Hamas continues to kill people in Gaza, we will have no choice but to go in and kill them. Do you see Hamas willing to give up its power in the region, and what does a transition of governance actually look like?
Well, it's not only surrendering power, it's also surrendering arms, and this is where we don't have the details of that. One of the problems with finding an alternative to Hamas is talking about technocratic Palestinians and others from the outside world that would be part of this board of peace, which would be chaired by President Trump and with potentially aid from former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. But, how does this work? Remember that Hamas emerged because of the deep resentment toward Fatah, which rules in the West Bank, to the fact that Gaza got the kind of small end of funding and aid. So, these are big, big, big questions. And just how does Hamas give up power? And, when people still feel resentment. So, this is, again, you can't kill an idea. And how do you create an alternative idea that will attract Palestinians and help stabilize politically the Gaza Strip?
Robin Wright, we thank you for your time.